he engages in material activities because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the supreme personality of Godhead. And therefore, purport says, Lord Kapila says that Mayi Manasam, a devotee whose mind is always fixed upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead, is called Atmarama, or Vidita Bhatta. Atmarama means one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. Atma, in the material sense, means the body or the mind. But when referring to one whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Atmarama means one who is fixed in spiritual activities in relationship with the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, and the individual soul is the living entity. When they engage in reciprocation, progress, and benediction, the living entity is said to be in the Atmarama position. The Atmarama position can be attained by one who knows the truth as it is. The truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the proper enjoyer, and that the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. One who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. An example may be cited in this connection. Just as a materialist engages in constructing a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Vishnu. Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atmarama. The materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper, but the devotee tries to satisfy the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If while performing anyone
Any activity.
I'm sorry, if while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. In other words, he's free from lust, anger, greed, from the free from birth, death, old age, and disease, and so forth. Okay. All right, so this verse, we'll read the translation again. The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the supreme personality of Godhead. Well, this verse is letting us know the glories of being Krishna conscious, where you're thinking of Krishna all the time. Therefore, you're not conditioned by Maya, you're not conditioned by the modes of material nature, because of your ability to think of Krishna all the time and also chant the names of Krishna in all situations. So if we find ourselves in a very difficult situation, the best thing is to sit down and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
and be patient and keep chanting until we feel free of any anxiety or fear, and just keep chanting until all those negative activities go away, and we begin to see solutions to the problem, which we will if we take the time to calm our mind and chant Hare Krishna. There's always a solution to every problem, but you have to have a mind that is not preoccupied with fear, anger, greed, and so forth. You have to have a mind that's fully focused on Krishna. Then you can see the solution to all problems. Okay. So, it says, one who knows the truth, one who knows this truth, and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord, escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. We should take heed of this verse or this purport, which is the last sentence of the first paragraph of this purport. And then Prabhupada writes, an example may be cited in this connection. What connection? One who knows the truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. This is very high level, let's say, knowledge. An example may be cited in this connection. Just as a materialist engages in constructing a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Vishnu. Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atma Rama. The materialist, Atma Rama means the position, a position that can be attained by one who knows the truth as it is. In other words, Atma Rama means one who knows the truth as it is. And it says the truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer, and the unities are meant to service and the one who knows this truth, and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord, escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. So here we have the formula that is that once we are convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the real enjoyer, not that we are the enjoyer, we are the enjoyed, but Krishna is the enjoyer. Therefore, we should work to please Krishna. And that the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. Now we see what is the difference between being a devotee who has no illusions and a person who is in an illusory state and has no faith or knowledge of Krishna. The truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer, and that the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. One who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. Well, this is the real, let's say, statement of knowledge by which we can navigate through all situations of the material world and not be victimized. We become victimized due to ignorance. And ignorance means that we have no knowledge of the eternal soul and the eternal spiritual world, and the fact that the real goal of life is not sense gratification, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. It's controlling the senses and engaging them in service of Krishna. Therefore, it says, one who knows this truth, what is this truth? The truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer, and that the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. One who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. Well, this is the gospel truth, and it has nothing to do with being a Christian or Muslim or this religion or that religion or no religion. It has to do with the truth. And what is the truth? It is that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the enjoyer, and that the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. So it doesn't matter what religion you're following. If you understand this, and that's why it says, one who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all mental reactions. All material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. In other words, he's free of the material modes of nature and is working to please the Lord. The one time Prabhupada was talking to a person that he was purchasing things from, and it was a Muslim gentleman. And Prabhupada asked him, and he said, what are you going to do with all the money you make? And the Muslim said, I'm going to build a mosque for Allah. And Prabhupada was happy to hear this. The man's he has the honest business. What was he doing? I think he was supplying bottles. So Prabhupada would go to him to buy bottles for the products. And they would talk, and Prabhupada said, what are you going to do with all the money you're making? and the Muslim said, I'm going to build a temple, a mosque for Allah. And Prabhupada, he said, oh, that's very good. So the mosque, the Muslim will build a mosque for Allah, and the devotee will build a temple for Krishna, the original Allah. So therefore, Prabhupada says here, just as a materialist engages in constructing a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Vishnu. Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atmarama. Okay, so what does Atmarama mean? It means that one is one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. Atma, in the material sense, means the body or the mind. But when referring to one whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Atma Rama means one who is fixed in spiritual activities in relationship with the Supreme Lord. Okay. All right, so then it says here that but the person who constructs a skyscraper, I'm sorry, but the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atmarama. Atmarama means that one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. So, the materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy the super self, the Supreme Personality of God, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of God. But the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If, while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. So, this is a great let's say, a great statement of the advantage of being a devotee. So the materialist can build a skyscraper, the devotee can build a skyscraper, but the consciousness of the materialist and the consciousness of the devotee is different. The devotee's consciousness is he's building the skyscraper for Krishna, and the non-devotee is building the skyscraper for his own sense gratification and material, let's say, advantages. So Prabhupada says here, superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, And the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atmarama, or Atmarama means one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. Okay, so we should enjoy in the spiritual atmosphere by building a temple to glorify Lord Krishna. And the materialist, he is not enjoying in the spiritual atmosphere. He's enjoying in the material atmosphere, and his purpose is to attain sense gratification. Okay. The devotee, the materialist who builds a skyscraper, and the devotee who builds a skyscraper, well, it looks like they're doing the same thing. And it's a fact, they're doing the same thing. But the motive is different. The materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy the super self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If, while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotion service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. So, wonderful statements by Srila Prabhupada explaining the difference between the materialist and the devotee. And to read the verse again, this is Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 26. The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so two people may be doing the same thing, building a building, but the devotee is building a temple for Krishna, and the materialist is building a business structure to make money and enjoy material life. So the devotee's happiness is building a temple for Krishna, and where the Lord will be glorified every day by service and chanting and so forth. And the materialist is building a building to make more money and basically for their own sense gratification. So there's a world of difference, although the activity they're doing looks exactly the same. They're building a building. Prabhupada writes, the materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to this body by constructing a skyscraper, but the devotee tries to satisfy the super self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed on sense gratification. If, while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service and full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. Okay, so we should be always performing activity in Krishna consciousness and not for sense gratification. That way, the worker in devotional service and full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Ram.
Okay, are there any questions? So, Atma Rama means one who rejoices in the self or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. So, the word Atma has different meanings. In the material sense, Atma means the body or the mind. But when referring to one whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Atma Rama means one who is fixed in spiritual activities in relationship with the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Soul. Okay.
So Maharaj, if there are some of these materialists or the people who built skyscrapers, not everybody, but some of them are also very regulated. They're not driven by necessarily sense gratification, but it's a excellence in like engineering. So personally, they are probably are, let's say, regulated in many ways, like, and they work really hard. They so.
One minute, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Are they doing that without being paid?
No.
So they are attached
Mm.
to the
Results.
to the result.
Yeah.
They're not going to spend 2 years building a skyscraper and not asking any money, just being completely altruistic, and you'll never see anyone with it. Or if you hire a company, a building company, they're not going to build the building, because they like you and they don't accept any money. They're doing it for money. If you don't pay them, they're not going to do it.
Correct. You might have heard of the person Charlie Munger, I think.
Yes.
So
he's the friend of very rich guy.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, both of them were very close friends.
Yeah, and then
both of them were rich.
Very, very rich. But interestingly, his philosophy, I think he was influenced by the Stoicism or the Greek philosophy. But he used to lead a very regulated life.
Okay.
In fact, there is some articles about, or even videos about Charlie Munger's philosophy on happiness. And I just wanted to read something for you, and then because there are some people that think that, oh, it's the same whether
all rich people are bad.
So his philosophy, Charlie Munger is an American investor, businessman, philanthropist, best known as the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, where he works alongside Warren Buffett. Munger is widely regarded for his wisdom on investing and life, often combining practical, ethical, and psychological insights. Philosophy of happiness. Munger advocates for a life guided by principles of rationality, integrity, and constant learning. His views on happiness emphasize avoiding stupidity over seeking brilliance. Munger often advised focusing on avoiding foolish decisions rather than pursuing perfection.
Wait a minute, say that again?
Avoid stupidity over seeking brilliance. That is, he advises on focusing on avoiding foolish decisions rather than pursuing perfection. That's, I mean, basically, don't try to, go after big things and then rather in the process make foolish decisions, basically. Number two is delayed gratification. He highlights the importance of patience and long-term thinking for fulfillment and happiness. Simplification and focus. Avoiding unnecessary complexity in life and concentrating on what truly matters. Relationships and ethics. He stresses the value of trust, kindness, and ethical behavior in creating long-lasting happiness. Personal development. Lifelong learning and striving for continuous improvement are cornerstones of his approach. So those are some of the things that he highlights as.
Let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
Did he learn Krishna consciousness?
No, I mean, he didn't know Krishna.
But he could have.
He may not have come across our philosophy. I don't know. I mean, depending on his walk of life.
Well, he had the opportunity.
Hmm.
He didn't take that opportunity. He's a karmi in the mixed modes of goodness and passion.
Hmm.
And, he was smart. He had somewhat control of his mind and senses.
Hmm.
He was regulated. And he made a lot of money. And he used the money to do some good things, but always materially interested, not really spiritually interested. If he was spiritually interested, he would have dedicated his money in building temples and advancing Krishna consciousness. He didn't do that. Did he build any churches?
I doubt that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prabhupada had this, he was buying bottles from this one Muslim guy. And he asked the Muslim one day, he said, "What are you going to do with all your money?" And the Muslim said, "I'm going to build a mosque." So here's a Muslim, but his idea or his goal is to build a mosque. Now, Mr. Munger, did he build a temple or did he build a church?
Hmm. Here, I checked, and he didn't. His investments or philanthropic efforts were primarily focused on education, healthcare, and scientific research.
Yeah, so he's, somewhat in the mode of goodness,
Hmm.
but it's not pure goodness. Pure goodness, he would build temples. But instead of temples, he builds buildings of scientific research and things like that.
Yeah. So basically, people who
Oh, wait a
may.
minute, look this over. That's the elephant in the room now. Did he go to church?
That's a good one.
I mean, you go to church, when somebody dies or there's a marriage, but did he actually go to church to pray and glorify the Lord?
Charlie Munger did not publicly identify as a religious person or as someone who actively attended church.
There you go.
his worldview was largely secular and grounded in rationality, ethics, and practical approach to life.
It's a good karmi.
Hmm.
So now he died. Where do
Hmm.
you think he's going to go?
Hmm.
I'm not going to go back to Godhead, for sure.
He's going to come back. Yeah,
You go to some higher planet.
planetary systems. Yeah, for the good
Higher
activity.
material planet. So, in one sense, people regard him as a great man who had tremendous achievements. But from the devotee point of view, he's just an ordinary karmi. He wasn't really interested seriously in glorifying Krishna or God or Jesus. He was, I mean, did he go to church?
No.
Yeah. So, but he went to the stock market.
every day.
Every day. Yeah.
So Maharaj, we want everyone to be Krishna conscious. So like Muslims also, they also want everyone to become Muslims. I mean, not that radical we think, but so then who is correct Maharaj in this? So they also want something good only. I mean, not in the higher plan. I mean, not in the Krishna consciousness.
Now, if you're a good Hindu and you want to build a temple for demigods, or a good Muslim who wants to build a mosque, there's no difference between the two. No. But if you build a temple for Krishna, that's different. Because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you build a temple for a demigod, that's the same as building a mosque for the community of Muslims. No difference between the two.
Hmm.
Now someone will say, well, what's the difference between how is there a difference between building a mosque or building a temple for your community? And what you do in Krishna consciousness, you build a temple for your devotees. Well, there is a difference because the difference is that when the devotees build a temple, it's for everybody and it's to worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without any material desires and without any sense gratification. However, if you build a mosque or a temple, and it's just like Birla Mandir. Why is he naming all his temples that he built as Birla Mandir? Because he wants to have he wants to show people that he did it. Whereas a genuine devotee would not put his name on the name of the temple,
Hmm.
Like sense gratification.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
sense
some
gratification.
social welfare, so the brand goes up. This brand.
All the temples he built were all called Birla Mandirs. I would never do that. That's like crazy. Put your name on the. I mean, I built 2 temples, and I didn't put my name in it. There you go.
So Maharaj, these temples are like very popular, especially in India, very, very popular.
Yeah.
They're popular for their
Grandeur.
architecture and
The
their
grandeur.
aesthetic.
Yeah,
And
definitely
it's-
well done.
Yeah, and their maintenance, Maharaj, like cleanliness, and the maintenance like a very good. They're very popular. Cleanliness and everything. But it's a very good example, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you.
What's a good example?
Like even though someone is building the temple, but still it's not a devotee.
Yes, Birla Mandir, putting his name on it. That means that he still has a false ego. And he has desires of enjoying something material. So if he calls it, if he names the temple after his own name or his family name, that means that he's doing it for his own sense gratification.
So from the lens of Krishna, when he says like become Arjuna, become a yogi under all circumstances, which means like you control your senses and mind. Now these people, they're good karmis, they were able to control their mind and senses. So would we consider them as yogis of some sort? But they're not necessarily transcendental yogis, like, but they is a yogi somebody that just controls mind and senses in some way, like in this case, let's say Charlie
No, a
Munger.
real yogi is a devotee, dedicating his life to
Yeah.
Krishna.
So
Yoga
that
means connecting with God.
correct.
So yeah.
But in the 6th chapter only, Krishna gives like towards the end, he says that yes, the highest yogi is one who's abides in me and surrenders to me. So yoginam api sarvesham, that verse.
Yeah.
But before that, he does describe people who control their mind and senses as yogi. So would Charlie Munger be considered a yogi of lower category?
No, he's not doing anything for God. He's doing it for his own name and fame.
Hmm.
Did Charlie Munger build a temple or a church? Did he go to church?
No.
Huh?
No. And even though he gave away as charity, that's still a karmi. Let's say
Well, did he give any charity to a church?
no.
So he didn't believe in God.
Then if you refer to the another verse, the time, space, circumstances, the donation, that also matters.
Yeah, whom he gave, like, is it a worthy person at the right cause? I mean,
The right time. If he's giving only at the moment of death, then
What? He gave something at the moment of death?
I'm not sure.
No, he left money to his children,
I'll
his
let you.
relatives.
yeah, I think Charlie, I don't think he did what Warren Buffett is doing, at least. He's still giving into the hands of his
Is he even dead?
who? Charlie Munger died last year.
In the AA only it is telling that he served as a volunteer service chair for the Episcopal Bishop of Los Angeles until the early 1960s.
What's that? What?
He served as a volunteer service chair for the Episcopal Bishop of Los Angeles.
Episcopal.
Episcopal.
Episcopal. EPIS.
Episcopal.
PAL.
Episcopal
Episcopal.
Church.
Episcopal Church of Los
Never heard
Angeles.
of that. I think you're mispronouncing the name. How do you spell it?
EPISCOL.
OPA.
OPA.
What?
EPISCOPAL.
How do you pronounce it?
Episcopal.
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 Epi. EPISCO.
Have you ever heard of a church like that?
Yes, ma'am. There are churches.
Yeah, it's like this one, Episcopal Church.
Anglican,
No, Episcopal, you're mispronouncing the word. It's Episcopal, it's not Episcopal.
Episcopal.
It's Episcopal. Episcopal Church, yeah.
Episcopal.
Anglican, it means it started in England originally. And this is a branch of the Anglican Church in the United States. So then, it just like any other thing, they sort of break away from the original thing. So, yeah, branch of, or they break away. It's a breakaway branch.
He was tied up with the church till he met Warren Buffett, I think. They met in 60 something, 58 something. Till 60, he was there with the church. He worked as a volunteer.
And then?
I think afterwards he went after money, I think.
Yeah.
Well, okay, like, what did he do with his money? When he died, who did he leave his money to? Did he leave some money to the church and then to his family? For sure, he left money for his family, but did he leave any money for his church? Or did he continue going to church until he died?
He left a significant portion of his wealth to his family and various philanthropic causes during his lifetime. He had 7 children from 2 marriages and also supported stepchildren, distributing more than half of his wealth to them over years.
To 4 children.
Some schools and universities.
Yeah. So he preferred giving directly to his heirs than through formal pledges like giving pledge and all. So
What?
he didn't give to a charity or philanthropic organization much.
He didn't give much.
No.
He gave
he
it
donated
to his relatives,
Yeah,
his
I mean,
children, and so forth.
because he had lots of money, but he contributed up to about 500 million to universities, hospitals, and other projects.
That's a complete waste of money.
He has 2.7 billion pounds.
All right, so that he didn't leave all that money to hospitals. He left most of it to his family. But he was let's say, a very smart commie. He wasn't really a devotee in any way. He had good karma, that's for sure. Okay.
But he also is also like building a skyscraper.
Building a temple for a demigod.
Yeah. Because in India there are so many temples. Building a temple means for people it is building a temple for demigod. So they want to build a temple for Sai Baba, they want to build a temple for Shiva, Hanuman. Hanuman is devotee of the Lord, but at least. So a lot of people building.
No, but they consider Hanuman to be God.
Mhm.
Yeah, all these things are wrong. And the worship that they do is usually for material benefit. Like, people chant the Hanuman Chalisa. But why did they chant it? Because they're having some problems or something like that. They chant the Hanuman Chalisa to get rid of their problems, or to get their kids into college or something like that. They don't really chant it out of pure love and devotion for God. And Hanuman is not God. He's a devotee, he's not God. So, but they treat him like God. So if you worship someone and consider that the person's God, then it's completely wrong. So there are people who worship Hanuman, but they think he's God. But that would be a big mistake.
So, Maharaj, in Chaitanya Sikshashtakam,
Yeah,
you consider your guru as non-different from Krishna.
that would be a mistake, big mistake.
No, but it says, right? Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastra Tastada Bhavyata Eva something.
That's not it.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. No, we have Guru Ashtakam. In Guru Ashtakam, it basically says that, what is the exact translation? It's the last but one verse. What's the translation? Because even the guru should not consider themselves, but for a disciple, a guru should be equivalent
Given
to
the same respect as
as
God,
God.
but the guru is not God. He's given the same
Respect as God.
He's the representative.
Yeah. So the did you find it?
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord.
Yeah,
He's honored already
Yeah.
but he's not the supreme one.
because he's the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
So the people, let's say, who are worshipping Hanuman,
Yeah.
so are we saying that they are considering, because they know that all
It all
Hanuman.
depends on what your motive is.
Hmm.
So if the motive is to worship Hanuman as God, that's wrong.
As the ultimate God.
Yeah, that's wrong. No, no, as God, there's no,
God is only one.
no.
There is no
one.
ultimate God.
No, but the demigod I'm talking about, like, because our devotee in this case. So
Right?
because Hanuman, everybody who reads Hanuman, the Chalisa, for example, they will know that he was the devotee of the Lord. In fact, that's what they're also glorifying.
That doesn't mean no, it doesn't mean that they worship him as the servant of the Lord. They worship him as God.
Giver of something.
Yeah, that is true. They want something by worshipping Hanuman. They want something for them. Most of them.
Yeah, but they consider Hanuman as God.
Hmm.
They don't consider that he's the servant of God. They believe that he's actually God.
Hmm. That's why they say Lord Hanuman.
Yeah. But Hanuman himself didn't think he was God.
People consider Hanuman Chalisa as a God worship, but if you go by the meaning, Guru Maharaj, if they pay attention to the meaning of every word,
Yeah.
they have to come to the conclusion that they're glorifying the Ramadut.
They're worshiping.
Ramadut, servant of Ram. The glorification all about servant.
When they chant the Chalisa.
Chalisa, they understand the meaning. Most of the time, they just as a worship, as a treating as a god. They recite that, but if they go by the meaning, they'll come to the conclusion that servant of Lord Ram.
Okay.
The two ways to approach it.
Well, that's the whole point. It depends what your motive is.
Yeah.
So you have people that are chanting the Hanuman Chalisa every day.
Mhm.
A lot of worship,
Mhm.
but their understanding of Hanuman is that he's God.
And then he will give you, if you don't get married, you worship Hanuman, then you'll get married. That's why they chant and recite Hanuman Chalisa, they go to Hanuman. But they don't pay any attention to the meaning of what Hanuman Chalisa is.
Well, that's why I say everything depends on what the motive is. So one person can worship Hanuman as this great servant of Lord Ram. Another person can worship Hanuman as God himself. So that would be wrong. So, yeah. Okay.
I'm just looking through the translation of.
I'm gonna ask the elephant.
In this case, I just opened up an article. It said one of the verses, Sabupar Ram Tapasvi Raja Tinike Kaj Sakalatum Saja, something like that. In that one, Lord Rama is the greatest ascetic amongst all the kings. But it is only you who carried out all the tasks of Lord Sri Ram.
Of what? Of Lord who?
So this is a prayer to, again, Hanuman Chalisa, one of the verses, it says, the translation is that the Lord Rama is the greatest ascetic amongst all the kings. But it's only you, that is Hanuman, who carried out all the tasks of Lord Sri Rama. One who comes to you with any longing or sincere desire obtains the abundance of the manifested fruit, which remains undying throughout the life. So it's basically
Treating Hanuman like God.
God and
Yeah.
you know,
We're not
manifestation.
treating him as the eternal servant of Ram.
Is
So-
our devotee translation?
No, this is some. This is actually art of living. This is the art of living.
The art of living.
Devotee translation.
So there's one temple near our home in India.
Yeah.
There, almost if they want some wishes to be fulfilled, they do 1 lakh betel leaves. They worship. And
That's a lot of beetle leaves.
yeah,
You have to have a lot of money.
cost of the worship will be more than a lakh
Yeah.
Indian rupees, but people regularly do that there.
Hanuman temple.
Hanuman. They bring so many pujaris and all, and they will be doing that.
Do they
Many
write-
people do
do they
that.
write Rama on each leaf?
No, they just
Something
they
that,
put
yeah,
near
some
that.
leaves.
Did you ever do that?
The intention was to write the name of Lord Rama on each
On
leaf.
some leaves they write that Sri Rama.
The original intention was that way.
But
Right?
they want their wishes to be fulfilled. That purpose, you think of something, they come and do them.
Well, what's the percentage of people that hit the jackpot by doing it? How many people actually become rich by doing it?
But that happens. Regularly
I know, but what's the percentage?
get a chance to ask.
How many people actually get rich by doing it? They're all,
They get material benefits and they keep doing that, Maharaj. So what is that?
Yeah, there's no purity of pure devotional service is not the emphasis there. It's a material satisfaction, material. I mean, it does say in the end, one who reads and recites this Hanuman Chalisa, all his works get accomplished. Lord Shiva himself is a witness to it.
all his what? His goal?
All his works are like, yeah, goals basically, get accomplished. Lord Shiva himself is the witness to it. O Lord Hanuman, may I always remain a servant, a devotee to Lord Sri Ram, says Tulsidas, and may you always reside in my heart.
Okay, so the question to ask is, do they attain eternal life by doing? Or do they go to some, planets in the material world, a higher planet?
Yeah.
Usually that's what happens. They go to Swargalok or something. They don't actually enter into the spiritual world. Why? Because they have a purpose. You can't attain the spiritual world if you have a personal desire. Everything depends on the motive. So if they have a personal desire to achieve by all that tapasya or whatever they do, they won't go back to the spiritual world. They might go to the heavenly planets, but that's still in the material world.
Yeah, so actually, this is a pretty good response. I asked the same question, like, people who worship Hanuman Chalisa, do they go back to Godhead? It actually articulated pretty well, because what it said is, if someone worships Hanuman as with the intention, with the understanding that he is the pure devotee of the Lord and seeks connection with Lord Rama through Hanuman, then this aligns with returning back to Godhead.
Right.
But if the intent of the worship is, more materialistic,
What they
then
can get.
yeah, then they're still, on the path of purification. They won't go back to Godhead.
Okay. Well, now see, you don't have to worship any demigod. If you worship Krishna, all the demigods will be satisfied. If you try and worship the singular demigods, there's so many demigods, right? There's millions of demigods, it's not just one. So you will never really satisfy all the demigods. But if you worship Krishna, all the demigods will be satisfied.
Yeah.
Maharaj,
And
initially, when we are devoting ourselves to Krishna, then there was something on the mind level that says disregarding the other demigods. That is a problem, right, with Maharaj. So while we're developing the attachment to Krishna, there is also disregard to the other demigods. That's not good, right?
Well, I mean, if you worship Krishna, then all the demigods will be satisfied. Because they're also worshiping Krishna. So you don't have to worship each demigod separately. You just worship Krishna.
so I think here is another point.
See, in that sense, when the Muslims took over ancient times, they destroyed all the deities that were being worshipped. There were 360 deities, one for every day temple. And they destroyed all those deities, and they didn't make a deity of Allah. You're not allowed to do that. So you walk into a Muslim temple, there's no deity. And you walk into a regular Hindu temple, a whole bunch of deities. But the Muslims, it's basically an empty room. You just have this one plaque that shows you which direction Makkah is, so that when they pray toward the direction of Makkah. But there's no deity.
And at the Makkah, Guru Maharaj, where do they
What?
at the Makkah,
Yeah.
where do they point to in the worship?
Well, there's this big
Wall.
box.
Wall or box?
The box, yeah. And
Box is considered tomb.
yeah. It's no, it contains this rock that fell from the spiritual world.
Oh, right.
And they don't see the rock. Maybe like once a year they'll take it out, but you gotta be rich to see it. Pay to see.
So that's kind of a deity worship.
Yeah, it's a type of deity worship.
They don't accept it's a deity worship.
Why don't you look that up? What's in the cover? What is the cover?
It holds items used for the Kava's cleansing and anointing rituals, including scented oils and incense burning.
What is it?
I didn't understand what you said.
Holds items used for the Kava's cleansing and
Inside the cover, inside the mosque that they walk around.
Was it?
no.
What is inside the cover?
Is a stone building at the center of Islam's most important mosque and holiest site.
Yes.
It's a stone building.
Okay. What's inside?
Oh, the black stone.
Is it black stone?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that they claim that fell down from the spiritual world. That black stone. And it's called the Kaaba. I think that's what they name it.
So it covers approximately 180 square meters. Floor is made of white marble,
That's
bordered.
the building. That's
Yeah.
not the Kaaba itself.
Interior elements, 3 wooden pillars supporting the ceiling, each about 1350 years old, silver and gold lamps suspended from the ceiling, a small storage cabinet containing scented oils, and enclosed staircases leading to a hatch in the ceiling. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
There's no stone or anything?
There is a stone.
Yeah, that's the Kaaba. They believe it fell down from the spiritual world.
The inside of the Kaaba is off limits to everyone except some dignitaries, religious scholars, and maintenance workers. It is not open to ordinary Muslims. The inside is relatively empty, with 3 wooden pillars holding up the roof, a simple storage cabinet, and a collection of lamps and incense censers strung between the pillars. The cabinet contains scented oils that are used in tandem with those censers to anoint and perfume the Kaaba after its yearly washing. There's also a ladder leading up to the roof that's primarily used for cleaning and replacing the cloth that decorates the Kaaba, called the kiswa. Now, the daily prayer in Islam should always be oriented toward the Kaaba, but here's an interesting thought experiment. Are you allowed to perform the daily prayer inside the Kaaba? Well, scholars debate this. Some say it's acceptable, but others argue it's not, since you'd technically be turning your back on at least part of the Kaaba if you prayed within it.
They're also kind of a
So it's a stone, right? The black
The
stone.
black stone.
That's
Maharaj, it's like this.
There's some pictures. It won't work. It's already.
That's the inside.
Yeah.
Use the internet.
I don't see, where's the black stone?
I think it's in the middle.
Wow. It looks like it's a place where you have when you take dead bodies or something.
they're also directing their worship towards some object, like maybe empty box or some rock in a box.
Rock in the box.
Well, no, they
Yeah,
always have to
Huh?
point their
Yeah,
prayers toward Makkah.
Rock in the box. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the Makkah, they point to the box.
Even in India also, this is the argument going on, Maharaj, with Christians. They tell that idol worship is not correct, but they put Jesus saying, they put all those idols and all, they do.
Well, the Muslims are putting up idols too.
Yeah, yes, Maharaj.
Kaaba.
In different way, they are, I mean, that is the argument is going in India. They criticize idol worship, and they also, indirectly, they are doing idol worship only. Yeah. Yeah.
An object. They
Object, yeah.
focus on.
all confusing. Ways of worship. Anyway,
But I mean, human mind needs something to latch onto.
Yeah, Krishna says in the second 12th chapter.
Yeah.
well, how can you latch on to the Kaaba? Because very few people are allowed to see it.
No, they're seeing the black thing, and then like,
Yeah,
there is a
imagine
The
dark.
box,
Yeah.
the big box.
Yeah.
Well, that's something.
Yeah. I mean, it is a physical
Yeah.
manifestation
They
of.
don't touch also.
Yeah.
We're lucky to be Krishna conscious.
I mean, compared to, let's say, pure Mayavadis,
Mhm.
for them,
They don't worship.
they don't worship anything. At least the Muslims, they have Kaaba is the,
Yeah.
every time they worship all over the world, they're all pointing to that direction.
There's something there.
Yeah.
When Mayavadis, they focus on the breathing. They have to focus on something. Otherwise,
Maybe the jnanis are the ones who not this, not this, not this, and they try to speculate.
speculate, yeah. But still, when they have to say not this, that means there is an object.
Yeah, at least they're saying this is not this, this is not this.
Not this, yeah.
Yeah.
But still,
But-
point is on.
So, do they worship on something eventually, or they just keep
They keep
saying
saying no.
neti neti?
Yeah, Neti. So much.
That I'm not a Mayavadi. Okay,
All
so
right.
what's the takeaway from our verse today? Canto 3, chapter 27, verse number 26. One who knows the truth and who tries to engage all resource in the service of the Lord. They didn't say 10% of your resources. They said all resources. Who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. So the key word in there, which is repeated several times, is all. Right?
Yeah.
It says, one who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of the modes of material nature. So all means all, right? You can't like just do half. You can't just put a half of it in. You have to put the whole in. Yeah. So if while performing, this is the last two sentences of this purpose. If by performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature. And I think that's a pretty good summary of the proper way of worship.
And some
Your mind has to be fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord.
some tries to trick the system because they try to put all resources at the end of their life, Guru Maharaj.
All what?
All the resources,
Yeah.
I will use all my resources at the end of my life.
To do what?
Devotional service. This is an argument. Like when
Does
I
that
reach
work?
70, when I reach 80.
Does that work? See, that's a fake, let's see. Fake concept. Well, I'll do all kinds of sense gratification now that I'm young and can enjoy. When I get old and sick and ready to die, then I'll, become Krishna conscious.
They keep saying when we go to, you have to enjoy life now, and then when you are in 60s and 70s, then you can do Krishna Rama.
This is Dharma Artha Kama Moksha. They put in that format framework.
I used to live with a priest, a high priest. He was an archbishop, and his philosophy was, if you don't enjoy sense gratification now, you won't be able to enjoy spiritual life. Crazy guy. He eventually fell down. He was an archbishop. He was a high priest. He told me one day, he said, if you don't enjoy the pleasures of the material world now, then, you won't be able to enjoy the spiritual world. And he fell down. He eventually got married and then got a job, which is good. At least he wasn't a fake anymore. Okay, well, the materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy the super self, the Supreme Persona of Godhead, by constructing a temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed on sense gratification. If, while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of the material nature. Now we know where Mr. Munger went. He did not go back to God.
So apparently the Muslims must believe in 5 things to understand their spiritual world. Number 1, everything is the belief in the divine decree. Everything occurs by God's will, though humans do have the free will. I don't know what the detail there is. Next is belief in the day of judgment. Humans will be judged for their deeds and rewarded with paradise or punished with hell. Next is belief in prophets. Prophets, including Adam, Moses, and Jesus, and Muhammad, the final prophet, conveyed God's guidance. Next is belief in divine scriptures. Muslims revere the Quran as the God's final revelation, alongside earlier scriptures like Torah and Gospel. Then Bible. Then Muslims, next, they must believe in angels. Angels are seen as beings created by God to carry out divine tasks, such as delivering revelations. And then finally, belief in oneness of God. Muslims believe in one all-powerful, all-merciful God, Allah, who's unique and incomparable. So those are the 6 beliefs.
They would get confused by Krishna. So many different forms of Krishna. Varaha, Matsya, Avatar. Huh? Kurma, they would get confused. That's because they don't have full knowledge of who God is and what are, Krishna's transcendental engagements. How can he pick up the earth when the earth falls down into the
Causal.
Dark ocean? How can he pick up the earth? He has to have the body of a boar, 2 big tusks to pick up the earth and put it back into its orbit. All this is incomprehensible for the Muslim, but very comprehensible by the Buddhists. But if you're not trained properly, it's hard to believe these things. Well, that's all mythology. It's not really the truth. That's what you believe.
People use that word without knowing the meaning also, Maharaj. In general talk also mythology.
Yeah.
Mythology, they don't know the actual meaning.
Well, look up the meaning. What is mythology? It begins with myth.
Myth, yeah.
It's some kind of belief.
They using that word, they think it is they're authenticating that.
Yes.
Yeah, but its meaning is completely different.
Myth is a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining some natural or social phenomenon, and typically involving supernatural beings or events.
What was the first sentence?
A traditional story.
It's a story.
And there is a second meaning to it. A widely held but false belief or idea. So we added a second definition.
Another meaning, Maharaj, is a collection of myths.
A collection of myths, especially one belonging to a particular religious and cultural tradition.
So what I like here is, it says, the materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy the super self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of God. But the non-devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If, while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled. The worker in devotional service is focused and always independent of the influence of material nature. That is a nice statement. Very nice statement. So, that puts into question, Birla Mandir. So it's a big question mark. Birla Mandir. Why did the family put their name on the temple? because they want name and fame. Name and fame. So they're not really glorifying God or Krishna. They're glorifying their family. They're piggybacking Krishna. You gotta be really puffed up to name the temple, Birla Mandir. You really be puffed up. Okay, any questions, comments?
Any online?
Yes.
No, I'm just asking if anyone online. Any question or comment? I didn't see it. Okay, so we'll see you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, bro.
Prabhu, we were talking about what is there inside the thing, When I search in the internet, it says Saudi Arabia releases first ever photo of holy Kaba stone, Kaaba stone. But when I see the photo, it looks like whatever we do puja, right? Shaligram Jaisa, it looks like a Shaligram. A little surprising. I was also not. Yeah, Shaligram Sila kind of a shape. If you search in the internet.
So what is your point?
Yeah, that means to say they're also praying like Shaligram. We also pray like Shaligram, something like that.
A black stone.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, the less you know, the more what do you call it? The more mistakes you see. The more you know, the more
Similarities.
similarities you see. So Muslims have the Kaaba, it's a black stone, and the Hindus have the Shaligram Sila, which is a black stone. Right?
Yes, Maharaj. I was thinking it like a big rock will be inside, but today I saw that inside nothing is there in the sense like three pillars and in the corner there is one small Shaligram Shila kind of a thing.
There you go.
Surprising. Yeah.
Now, do we worship a rock in Krishna consciousness? Yeah, Shaligram Shila. It's a rock. So that's why I say, the less you know,
The more differences you
the
see.
more
You see more
differences you
difference.
see. The
Mm.
more you know, the more similarity. So we're finding out that the Kaaba is a rock, a black rock, and Shaligram Shila is a black rock. So that's similarities.
Similarities. Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. Thought of telling you.
Now the next thing would be, what's the size of the Shaligram Shila and what's the size of the Kaaba? But it looks like the Kaaba is not some gigantic rock. It's a small rock inside a big box building.
Yeah, it is what they're telling, in the 18th century, it is black stone, roughly 12 inches in diameter.
How many?
Like 12 inches, 12 inch in diameter.
12 inches in diameter. Okay.
Yeah. And visible piece are set in a silver frame that is about 30 centimeter in diameter.
It's something that you can see from outside.
Yeah, that we can see in the outside. That's what they say.
So it's not something in the middle of the box, Maharaj. It's, you see here, like this is like the Kaaba.
Yeah, the big
So
box.
right here on
Yeah.
the outside itself, they have that stone.
Oh,
So they have that stone, and then they have like a silver frame around it.
But the history, what they are telling in history, Maharaj, the black stone was originally one piece, but has been damaged and broken into pieces over time. Some pieces are believed to be in Istanbul and Edirne, Turkey. That's what they say.
yeah. I didn't understand. Some
Yeah.
of the pieces are where?
No, what they're telling the history, the black stone was originally one piece,
Yes.
but has been damaged and broken into pieces over time.
Yeah.
Some pieces are believed to be in Istanbul and Edirne. Yeah,
Where?
Istanbul.
Oh, Istanbul.
Istanbul. Yeah, Istanbul and Edirne again in Turkey. That's what they're saying. In two places. Some pieces are there. That's what they call
What's
it.
the second? What's the second place?
Edirne, Edirne in Turkey.
E-D.
Irne.
E-D. E-D is Ed. I-R.
Ne.
Edirne. Edirne. So that's some place in Turkey. I didn't know that. And this is the it's the most holy rock in Islam. Kept in Turkey. No, I don't think so.
It's a piece of it, apparently.
Some pieces.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, because it's kept in a Muslim. Where's that? Is it Saudi Arabia? Where's that?
Yeah, the Kaaba.
Yeah. Kaaba is in Saudi Arabia, Maharaj.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's really good to be Krishna conscious. It's a lot easier to understand things.
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, we worship a stone also, Shalagram Shiva, and it is a black stone. Yeah.
I think it's Vedic philosophy is complete. So everybody else has like these bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So as you said, like because they only know limited, they think that is it. Whereas the Vedic philosophy, you can actually appreciate why they are doing what they are doing, while not getting stuck at that level. We can respect at the same time, see that there is a.
Well, there's things missing in the Quran, like they haven't figured out that you shouldn't eat meat. So that's missing. The Quran doesn't have all knowledge. It's got knowledge, but not all knowledge.
And most of these other philosophies, they're prescriptive.
Yeah, what?
Prescriptive means like, okay, this is, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this.
Okay.
Whereas, in Bhagavad Gita and our Vedas, it actually describes like why we do or why we should do. Like for example, this concept that the whole creation in the material world is operated by these three modes. You have to raise above them.
Rise above them.
Rise above them. So you have to rise means like you have to follow certain processes to purify your consciousness. So everything now connects with this philosophical understanding. Now you can see that other religions are also trying to give a path for people to raise their consciousness,
Yeah.
but they don't understand why they're doing it. They somehow are stuck in only the faith part of it, but there's no necessarily the full logic.
Well, like the Bible, it says, "Thou shalt not kill."
Correct.
Now, in order to get around that, they changed it to "Thou shalt not murder." But originally, it was "Thou shalt not kill." So you can't eat turkeys on Thanksgiving and things like that. You know?
But
So to get around that, they changed it. "Thou shalt not murder," meaning don't kill human beings. But "thou shalt not kill" means you don't kill anything.
Yeah, and for us, it's explained in the full philosophy, which is karma principle.
Yeah.
So we understand, okay, how killing something has consequences on your own journey. Whereas there, it's one statement. Now, either if you believe Jesus and you believe that statement, and if they, in this case, they think of that one word from kill to murder, now suddenly the scope of that changed. But the results of their actions are going to still bind them in the absolute truth, right? Because they don't have the principle what was guiding that statement.
Well, Christians kill a lot of things. They go hunting, not all of them, but they don't see anything wrong with hunting. And they have wars, even amongst themselves. Like the Germans were Christians, the English were Christians. They're killing each other. And they both celebrate they both celebrate Jesus. Right? That's something hard to understand. Even the Muslims, you have Muslims that are Shias, Muslims that are another group, but they're killing each other. There was a war between Iraq and Iran, and the United States was supporting both sides so they would kill each other. The United States was giving weapons to both sides, to the Iranians and to the Iraqis, and they were killing each other. A million people died in that war, although they have the same religion. Of course, there are different sects in Islam, and sometimes they fight with each other, kill each other.
Did they label it as a religious war?
Yeah, I guess they would call that a religious war. Just like we would say, well, the Mayavadis are not really devotees, right? And the Mayavadis would say, well, these Hare Krishnas, they're not bona fide. So what would happen? I've always asked this question. What would happen if ISKCON took over, the world? What would they do with the Mayavadis? Right? They would probably kill them. There would be a what you call apostate. Apostate. Is that the word? Is that the way you pronounce it? That means people who don't believe the truth about God. They would. I always ask this question to myself: what would happen if Hare Krishnas took over the world? What would they do with the Mayavadis, for example? What would they do with the Muslims? What would they do with the Christians? So just now in Syria, the Assad family was thrown out, and new rulers have come in, right? And most of those rulers were the main guy was part of the radical Muslims. But now he doesn't dress like a radical Muslim. He has the tie, and the suit, and he doesn't have the turban, right? So he sort of changed his appearance to look like a nice guy.
Western friendly.
Yeah. Before he was a radical Muslim. So the people are not sure what's going to happen. Some people are hoping, well, he looks good, maybe he will be good, and other people are saying, well, we'll go and we'll take a sabbatical and go to the United States and wait and see what's going to happen. A lot of people are leaving to wait and see what's going to happen. They haven't sold their houses, they haven't closed their businesses, but they're waiting to see what's going to happen, which way this new leader is going to go, because he was a radical Muslim, or he is a radical Muslim, but now he's not dressing like one and he's not talking like one. So you never know. You never know. It's like the Nazis, when they first took over, they were talking about, all the good things they're going to do. And then it became radicalized and they started killing. They're killing gypsies, killing the Jews, they're killing people have deformed bodies and things like that. They just started killing.
So the Nazis also, Burma is also a religious war.
What's that?
Nazis, their war.
Not Nazis. Nazis.
It's like a T in between.
So it was also a religious war.
No, the Nazis are all, they don't believe in God.
Yeah, they were killing Jews because they believe in God.
No, they're killing Jews because they think they're like monkeys. They're not, they don't deserve to live because they're causing too much trouble in the world. They attribute all problems in the world to Jews.
That's it.
That was Hitler. He was always talking against the Jews. In the beginning, he wasn't, but then he became determined that the Jews have to be eliminated. And that's why they had the massacres of the Jews. Most of his, lectures, he was talking against the Jews. And then this Jew hatred became one of the pillars of the Nazi philosophy. It's just like, you could say, well, all alligators are bad. So let's kill them all.
At the time, the Jews were politically strong. That's why the
They were
Nazis-
financially strong. They were financially strong.
So, like it is in the Telugu states, it divided into two states,
Right. Telangana. and-
Telangana, Andhra, same thing. Financially, the Telangana people are thinking that Andhra is rich because they are using all the, leveraging all the resources.
Huh. What's happening now?
Separate states and it might continue the same way, but some satisfaction in the mind.
Are they fighting?
As far as I know.
The country, the government agreed to separate the states about 10 years ago.
No, but which state has control of the water?
The two rivers now. Yeah, two rivers.
So Telangana.
Godavari controlled by
So are they giving water to the other state?
I think the water right now, if they, I don't think Telangana has the infrastructure to hold all the water, so definitely.
They're sharing it. Because that's a type of war when you hold back the water.
Yes.
Well, okay, I think we're finished.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we'll continue, what is it, 11 hours from now? Haribol.
Very
All praise to Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada.
ki jai.
Jai.